This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome in, my friends, to another episode of Behind the Pen. My name is Mike Rankin. As always, I will be your host, but today I am happy to introduce my co-host for today's show, Mr. Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
What's up, nation? He's back on Behind the Pen. I'm so happy to have him. We have a full show for you today, as always, jam-packed with a bunch of stuff, some things we're going to talk about.
Go Cubs, go, baby.
The Cubs are on the brink of clinching. If by the time we post this podcast, they've already clinched, hell yeah, because the Cubs are going to win the World Series. And that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. So, also, Chicago Bears. We're going to go into that. You know, this is probably going to be a Chicago Homer show. I mean, if you're not familiar with Behind the Pen, what else is new, right? All we do really is talk about Chicago sports and maybe some mainstay things and whatever, the media, whatever. But stay tuned because we have plenty to talk about. I hope to entertain you throughout however long this podcast turns out to be. It's also a treat because we're going to talk Chicago Bulls. And I know you guys love your Bulls talk, your NBA talk. And we're in September, so some NBA feel is nice. But all right. Before we get into our Chicago Bears conversation, we got to preview the Philadelphia Eagles matchup this Monday night. It'll be exciting. Home opener for the Chicago Bears. Before that, got to plug our Patreon, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. You guys know the drill. You become a Patreon. It helps us do better in podcasting. It also helps us entertain you more. So please do so. Any donation we receive, we truly, truly appreciate. We appreciate your time. That's why we try and entertain you on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel at Most Valuable Podcast. Also on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod. I'm at Rankin906. Ricky's at Ricky Widmer, I believe. I don't really pay attention to him, even though he tweets me every single day.
At Ricky Widmer.
So, Ricky, without further ado, we also have a new sponsorship that's working with us too, and we're doing these NFL picks every week.
Yep.
Ricky, could you please plug that for us?
Yeah, all it is if you want to go check out our weekly picks video, you can see what each of the guys at MVP, me and Mark in the video, everyone else on mostvaluablepodcast.com. But we got this cool website, thesportpick.com. You can go join the league called mostvaluablepodcast.com and kind of go and pick games based on the Vegas lines against the guys from MVP to kind of put your sports knowledge against ours. I'm the leader from last week at 3-2. Not going to toot my own horn, but
toot right there.
Toot, baby.
So here's what's going to happen. You can prove that you're more smarter, and that's not even the correct verbiage.
There's a lot of commenters that think they're smarter than me. So
well, they probably are.
Put your fake money in this case where your mouth is.
And it's a lot of fun, guys. Just check it out. If you don't want to, that's fine. We'll still be here for you. But all right, Ricky, let's get into this Chicago Bears conversation. Now, I ask myself this question all the time. Why do I always have you on this show when you're a Skull Vikings fan?
Yeah, Skull Vikes, baby.
It actually makes me sick.
Skull Vikes.
But the fact of the matter is the Bears are 0-1, just came off a Houston Texans loss in Houston. Was not pretty.
I thought you guys were going to win until J.J. Watt said he was going to play. Once Watt said he was playing, I was like,
well, see,
it's
with
a toss-up.
That conversation, like,
it's a toss-up.
Really, is J.J. Watt that much of an X factor? Because, like,
no, but he warrants double teams and he warrants more attention.
Right,
yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, no, that's a good point. But at the same time, it's like, really, this one player is going to... Obviously, the Bears had enough issues on their own right.
It was offensive line and then some mistakes from the Bears rookies, mainly Kevin White in my fantasy league.
Yikes.
He's on my team. Pick it up, brah.
We're going to talk about Kevin White here. I'm glad you brought him up because that is a definite conversation I want to hit on.
Who's got to step up?
Well, we'll get there. But what I want to start with, if you guys checked out my Chicago Bears post-game review, I thank you very much for doing so.
Rankin's Bear reaction.
Yes.
Bears reaction.
And you know what? I'm going to be doing that every single week, so stay tuned to Most Valuable Podcast for that. It's a lot of fun.
And I think the name, we're going to shorten it. It's Rankin's Bears reaction, but it's just going to be called RBR. That's what we're going to call it. Unless Rankin comes up with a better name. That's your homework, Mike Rankin.
Really?
You got to come up with a name for that
bad ratio of, I don't know. Well, we could do acronyms all day if we can figure it out. But, I mean, that's cool, I guess. But, yeah, no, thank you guys all for checking that video out and listening to Behind the Pen. You guys are awesome. But what I was talking about, really, my main concern with the Chicago Bears in Week 1 was their offensive line play. My gosh, we saw Bobby Massey and Charles Leno Jr. getting beat on the edges over and over and over again. And, really, that's the weak spot in the Chicago Bears right now, their offensive line, as well as on the defensive side, their secondary. They're young, inexperienced. But at the same time, on the defensive side, you feel a little better because you have Vic Fangio there. On the offensive side, you really don't have much help with Bobby Massey at right tackle and Charles Leno Jr. So, Ricky, how can the Bears improve against the Philadelphia Eagles next Monday night, or this upcoming Monday?
The biggest thing is for me, I look at the wide receivers and kind of, I look at Kevin White, and I don't want to focus in on one guy.
We're going right into Kevin White. Okay, that's fine. We could do that.
I don't want to focus on one guy, but you have to help out Jay a little bit more because, let's be honest, the offensive line is not strong. Jay's not going to have a ton of time. And on the one interception, I would love to sit here and bash Jay Cutler until I'm as blue as the shirt I'm wearing right now, or as blue as the beats you're wearing because you're wearing my Dre.
Or as blue as my eyes, like the ocean.
Beats going on. But Kevin White missed that route. He should have extended to the sideline.
Well, yeah.
That's what Cutler was looking for. It was a great interception by that Houston Texan defense, and I was happy because I had him in fantasy. But that's the thing. Jay Cutler needs more help because the offensive line is, you've got a young center, and it's really
a brand new center.
Well, and it's one of those things where he wasn't even supposed to play center.
Right.
Your center got injured in the preseason, and now he's kind of forced into, he's kind of like a tackle playing center.
Well, he was
right
a
now.
guard. He's Cody Whitehair.
He's
Cody
a guard tackle. No. He's versatile. He can play both.
Cody Whitehair can play center and guard. He's not a tackle. When they drafted him, they drafted him as a guard, and they really didn't expect Josh Sitton to fall to the Bears.
And
right.
they needed him to play center now.
What a gift Sitton was. Obviously, I mentioned that in the video. But yeah, you move, and this regime, and you touched on a lot of good points, so I'm going to bounce off of that a little bit. But this regime right now, you see it with Ryan Pace and John Fox. They're rather going young instead of guys like Ted Larson. They're willing to get rid of Martellus Bennett. They were so quick on getting rid of Brandon Marshall in the first year under John Fox. So this is the new direction of the Chicago Bears. And with Cody Whitehair, he played a little bit of center in college. But obviously, you're going to jump right in. Really, a week prior to opening night, you're going to learn the center position in the NFL. It's difficult. And we saw him struggle on that fourth down exchange.
The snap.
The huge play that in the first half totally changed kind of the complexion of the game in that first half. So there's a lot of growing pains that we're going to sit through, and the biggest growing pain right now is definitely Kevin White. Kevin White, you know what? When they drafted him, he was pretty much limited. Really, say in West Virginia, he runs 7 routes, right? There are 7 route trees that he was responsible for running. He could only run 2. He could only run 2 of them. And you know what? Honestly, he kind of struggled running those 2. And you know what? The way the NFL is built now, especially with wide receivers, you see with Antonio Brown. This is the most obvious example, and I'm just bringing him up because he's so good at what he does. But these are the type of athletes,
especially his twerking.
Stop. What he does off the line of scrimmage, you can't jam him. You can't do it because he'll just separate and just get right by you. And he's got such a great technique in terms of running a route. And Kevin White, you look at Kevin White, and it looks like he's totally, completely lost out there. And you know what I have a problem with too, if we're on this Kevin White topic, in the preseason, and I guess they were kind of limiting him because of injury concern, I guess if you want to call it, but he barely played. This is a guy who sat out all of last year.
Yeah, you got to have him in there.
Yes.
You have to have him in there. And I get the injury concern thing, but it's kind of different. Like, I'm going to use my Vikings for an example. Yeah, AP sat out the entire preseason, but Adrian Peterson's not a rookie, basically a rookie, who has not played, well, up until that point, has not played a regular season game in the NFL. Adrian Peterson is a vet who it's like, you know what, we want to increase your shelf life a little bit so you don't have to play this pointless preseason. However, for a guy coming in who had never played a regular season game, you got to get him out there. You got to get him up to the speed, because it's kind of like, I heard this listening to sports radio when they were talking about Dak Prescott, and I think it can relate to this. Really, in the NFL season, there are 3 different types of speeds that you're going to see not 3, maybe 5. The first one's preseason. You're going to see preseason speed. Kind of just the game of football, it's different from college. Then you're going to see regular season speed. Then mid-season, you're going to see mid-season speed. And then towards the end of the regular season, you're going to be in that everyone's pushing for the playoffs. It's going to go up a notch. And from that notch, it just increases all the way through the playoffs, because everyone's getting amped up more and more and more, trying to either make the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, it's do or die. So that's the fastest you're going to get.
Yeah, it kind of upset me a little bit knowing that Kevin White had no prior experience going into this season. And in the preseason, he was limited to so few snaps.
Can I ask you this?
Please.
Does it make you a little bit uneasy because of what could happen with Alshon Jeffrey?
See, now here's
could leave.
Absolutely. And if I'm Alshon Jeffrey, and if this season turns out to be kind of a clunker, right?
Which right now, after one game, I know it's one game.
There's plenty of time left for Chicago, but this is a team that is going to get better progressively from week to week. And this isn't, I go into this season super optimistic saying they're going to win 10 games, but the reality is there's plenty of holes on this team that need to be addressed and that they're trying to fill with guys that they drafted. But with Alshon Jeffrey, man, this guy, if he puts together 14, 15 games, even 16 this season healthy, you see it. You see the repertoire he and Cutler have together. That is a dangerous combo in the NFL right now. Alshon Jeffrey is the number one wide receiver. Yeah, he had that really bad drop in Houston on that third down play, and it kind of resulted in a change of the flow in the second half. That can't happen. Straight out, flat out, that can't happen. But Alshon Jeffrey is definitely worth the money, and I want the Chicago Bears, if he's healthy, to pay that man. But with Kevin White, you spend a 7th overall pick on this man, and you see the type of talent within the wide receiver position in the NFL nowadays, and Kevin White kind of gives you this idea that he's not going to be up to par with all of these other guys. Now, I know maybe we're kind of jumping the gun, but these are some of the early signs that we're seeing, and it's concerning.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to kind of move this into what we saw against the Texans, and kind of what you're going to see this Monday night against the Eagles. This defense, I'm going to move to the defense of the Bears. One of the things that really didn't sit well with me was the performance of Will Fuller. Like, he came out and he had a coming out party.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those things
Speed
where,
kills, and they will kill the Bears this year.
It's not one of those things where it's like the Bears defense did anything wrong. It was just
he beat Tracy Porter over and over again.
Speed kills. And I look at this Eagle team, and yeah, Jordan Matthews was the leading receiver, had most of the targets last week. But
I don't see much.
But one guy who had a touchdown catch, which I was surprised about, and is pretty damn quick, Nelson Aguilar. He's a guy that I look to have like a Will Fuller type of game. If I'm the Eagles, I'm looking at that one play. It was kind of like a bubble screen with Will Fuller where he just turned, Brock hit him, got the blocks, and his speed got him down the field.
Yeah, that was awful.
And not just Aguilar, they got a guy in Darren Sproles. I know he's getting older, but Darren Sproles has kind of been that, I kind of say scat back, where it's, hey, we're going to throw Sproles out on a screen and just let his speed kill you.
I appreciate you bringing up the Eagles, because let's move on to this Eagles conversation, because I'm sick of talking about the Texans game. That game is just done and out of the memory.
Move on to the future, man.
Leonard Floyd looked okay, and with this defense, now, you know what surprised me? Before we get into this Eagles, real quick, I just want to touch on this. Leonard Floyd outplayed, in terms of snaps, Willie Young and Lamar Houston.
That's good.
No. Honestly,
I see it from a young kid standpoint.
Well, sure, and that's what we were talking about before with the Chicago Bears. They're willing to really...
Obviously, you want the older guys out there a little bit more, though.
It's obvious in terms of snap count that Leonard Floyd is not better than Willie Young. He's not better than Lamar Houston, but you want him to be on the field as much as possible, I guess.
That's the John Fox.
This is John Fox turning this roster over, creating his own identity, his own persona. But it's just insane to me that a guy like Lamar Houston and Willie Young are playing less snaps than a guy who's ineffective. And I guess, whatever the case is, I'm interested. You guys who are listening, please keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Leonard Floyd on the field. Keep an eye on how often Lamar Houston and Willie Young are on the field. But on to this Eagles conversation.
Which everyone will get to see, because it's a primetime game this week.
Monday Night Football at home opener. They better win. You mentioned the wide receiver play. Yeah, speed's going to kill the Bears this year. Absolutely. You're going to have help from the safety position, which is going to open up other players on the wide receiver and the other team, obviously, whatever. But is this Eagles team, in terms of offense, I
like what they're doing.
You look at Carson.
I like what they got.
You look at Carson Wentz, and he absolutely obliterated that Browns team.
I know it's only the Browns, but and I know two little asterisks. I know it's only the Browns, and I know it's only week 1. But Mike, I gotta tell you, I told you guys. I told you so.
Wentz looked good.
I told you so.
And look at the Browns.
This is when we were talking draft coverage, and it was Wentz, Goff, Wentz, Goff. When I told everybody, hey, you know what? I like this Carson Wentz kid, not necessarily for what he's going to do his rookie year, but for the type of pro he's going to develop into. This is what I was talking about.
Yeah, a lot of the scouts and scouting reports that I follow and trust and respect their opinions have suggested that Carson Wentz was the most NFL ready.
And I said this once, I'll say it again. You look at his ESPN kind of draft profile with all the numbers.
ESPN, why?
I know. But if you look at his draft profile where they put all the numbers to the different attributes, cover up the name, then pull up Andy Dalton's from when he came out of college, the numbers were exact. And they have the same frame. They were the descriptions were eerily similar to where you couldn't tell who was who, and they both have red hair.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles did very well, in my opinion.
And really, he wasn't supposed to start. It was supposed to be Sam Bradford.
Well, of course, and that's what I was getting to. They did very well to be able to trade Sam Bradford to your Skull Vikings, and in return got a very nice return.
Yeah.
A first-round pick, and then a conditional
possibly
second round
even a second-rounder if the Vikings go to the Super Bowl.
Well, how about that? And now in a season where it's just like, okay, well, really, we weren't expecting to be among. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess in the Eagles' sake, you were a part of this NFC least because it could be anybody's division. Right now, it looks like it's the Giants.
The thing I see from that trade from the Eagles side and why they had to make it, one, Eagle fans, you wanted Sam Bradford out of town. You know it. If you're saying you don't, you're just in denial. But number 2, you needed to try to get a first from somebody because this next draft is going to be in Philly. With that fan base, you can't sit out that first night and not do anything. So it was a good way just to get into that night again. But bringing this back to the Bears, what the Bears need to do on this Monday night in regards to Carson Wentz is Wentz only got sacked twice.
Got to get pressure to the quarterback. I was going to say that too.
You got to get pressure to the quarterback because here's the thing. Wentz got to start against a cupcake team at home.
Torched him.
Those are two things on his side. Now he's playing his first primetime game in a hostile environment in Chicago. First road game as an NFL pro, you got to make his life hell.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You got to make his life hell and make him think, whoa, this is totally different than I saw last week.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really good point. Because last week, Bears fans, you saw it, they weren't getting any pressure to Osweiler. Osweiler had all day to throw. All day. And we saw what can happen in terms of speed wide receivers, and the Eagles have a lot of speed. And the Eagles are creative on offense to give the Bears fits, but you're right. Bears got to come up with some way to get to the quarterback. Akeem Hicks has to show up.
How many fingers am I holding up, Mike, right now?
1.
Do you know why I'm holding up 1?
No.
How many wins did the Bears have at home last season?
Really? That's true. That is true.
You guys, the only win at home was your 22-20 win over the Raiders.
Yeah, that was sad.
That doesn't bode well. You were 1-7 at home.
That's sad.
That's the flip side.
Well, it's probably because of the turf monster in Chicago.
That's the flip side. If I list off the 7 losses, Packers week 1, Cardinals week 2, Vikings week 8, Broncos week 11,
49ers.
that was only a 2-point loss. The Niners week 13,
Redskins.
The Redskins week 14, and then week 17. Who'd you play?
Was that
this quarterback broke his arm and beat the Browns back in the day?
Just say it.
The Lions.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say the Lions. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the final game of this year determined the draft position. I was actually hoping the Bears would lose because, top 10 pick or whatever, top 11.
But that's another way I look. I say, oh, you got to make Carson Wentz's life hell, but I know he's not. But me as an analyst, I look at it, it's like Carson Wentz has got to be thinking, This team couldn't play at home last year. I got this in the bag.
I'm not really
got
taking...
it in the bag.
Stop. I'm not really taking that much of a look at the home record of last year. Obviously, it's a different team. But yeah, the Cubs are... The Cubs. I am thinking ahead, guys. The Bears...
we're looking at our phones right now, guys.
No, nobody is. I don't know what you're talking about. What's a phone? I have a flip phone. With the Chicago Bears, this year, that's playing in Soldier Field, I don't know what the hell the deal was last year. It had to have something to do with the turf monster. I'm telling you, that turf is brutal. Absolutely brutal. But, at home this year,
is there going to be any difference? You're going to win more home games?
Yeah, I would say like 3 to 4 wins this year at home. I would expect them to win at home, you know what I mean? But, with this Eagles team, it's going to be a very interesting test because the Eagles, I am still not convinced that they're good or bad. They're really up in the air right now. And the Chicago Bears, I guess they're signing towards a bad team getting better. But this team, I feel, is better than Philadelphia Eagles, and I feel like the Chicago Bears should come out with a win on Monday night this week. What do you think, Ricky, as we wrap up this conversation?
In our picks video, I picked the Bears, so I got to stand by it. I think the Bears will win. However, this was a game, and I said it in our Week 2 picks video this week, I wanted to pick the Eagles. I wanted to pick them so bad. I like Carson Wentz. I like what he brings to the table. I like what he's doing with Doug Peterson over there in Philly. Carson Wentz is my boy. If I could get a Carson Wentz jersey, I would get a Carson Wentz jersey, probably the only Eagle jersey I would ever own. But I'm going to pick the Bears with a side of I wouldn't be mad if the Eagles won.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you picking the Chicago Bears because they're going to win, and they're going to win the Super Bowl. And we will end it on that note, right?
Super Bowl, Super Bears, right?
Shout out Mark Weber.